All right, welcome back. Today we will be featuring Keanu, and we were listening to "Where Have All the Merrymakers Gone" by Harvey Danger. There's a lot of really good songs and a lot of not very memorable songs. So we're gonna start from the top of the album with Carlotta Valdez. Now, what are your thoughts on this first track?
So Carlotta Valdez has a pretty memorable feeling to it, and it has a lot more energy than sort of the latter half uh of the album. I would say the first half of the album is pretty good, but Carlotta Valdez is a very strong song to start off with, and the chorus is pretty simple considering how much of a banger it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first riff that it starts with really kind of puts it out there that like, wow, we're gonna start with this punkish riff and have it start, and then just even though they just say Carlotta Valdez the whole time during the chorus,
Yeah.
it just kind of hits. Like the way they do it is right. I don't really know how to explain it. They don't have the harmonies and stuff that they do in Flagpole Sitta. Well, nearly as much. I think they do the portion of the song where they just say vertigo over and over and over again.
Right. But I feel like Carlotta Valdez checks all the boxes for a song of the era, and it checks them very well, but doesn't have any extra features to it.
I agree. I think it's just a really good song, but it doesn't stand out enough, which is I also from what I've been listening to and looking into, they wanted this song to be their second single instead of Private Helicopter.
Yeah.
But the record wanted to do Private Helicopter instead because it sounded more similar to Flagpole Sitta.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, but I think they should have just stuck with Carlotta Valdez.
Did you say that there's another band in the '90s that mentions Vertigo?
I yes, and that is the Bare Naked Ladies in their one of their hit songs, 1 week.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that it's just
of
a
course it's a
really
dance song.
yeah, it's just a really interesting time in music. To mention a movie from the '50s and the late '90s, so you know.
Yeah. It's making a comeback.
Yeah, almost. What's it? We're like 20 years late on this album, so that's good. Um, Now we're gonna talk about the big hit, the big single, the one that put them into stardom, and then since they had nothing else, well, I would say they didn't have anything else. I just said, you know, it wasn't in their best interest to continue to be making hits. It's Flagpole Sitta. Now I'll let you talk about it first, but
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, let's take into consideration the fact that this song is in 12/8 and swung, which is one of the many factors that uh, contribute to how good it is, in my opinion, at least.
it makes it very
Um,
memorable. The
it
feeling does.
it does, yeah. Like the pace of it, and sort of just the rhythm of the whole song that like kind of gets stuck in your head.
Yeah.
I was After I'd listened to this for a couple days, because this is kind of all that I listened to last week. I was literally playing the chorus on my tuba in concert band before we started last Wednesday. That's how much it got stuck in my head, and even more as a testament to how much I enjoyed Flagpole Sitta. My last FM stats tell me that I have listened to Harvey Danger 117 times in the last week. Um,
Uh-huh.
First, first of all, second of all, I have listened to "Where Have All the Merrymakers Gone" 103 times in the last week, and I've listened to "Flagpole Sitta" 81 times in the last week.
Interesting. I
Uh,
think from the first hit, like the drum fill right at the beginning. It's just simple, but it brings it right in perfectly. And then the starting riff that it does. It's I don't believe it's played on guitar. I believe it's like a weirdly like they played with the sound of the bass and then did it on there, from
mhm,
what I understand. And I
yeah,
think that's just like it's such a '90s sound is one way to put it. Another thing about this song is how fucking ironic it is. It is just incredibly ironic. You can hear it from the first time he says anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like they do not take themselves seriously, but they will do that with pride. Like
Yeah,
enough
I
energy and pride to carry like a hit, really.
yeah, and well, that's the thing though, is we were both very. I was barely born in the '90s. I think you could say the same thing, right?
I was, yep,
And so we didn't get to really see, but it was the '90s were super ironic. It was all about irony on top of irony. You didn't even know if people were being ironic at some points.
exactly.
So this song is just the fucking buildup of all the irony that the '90s was. They poke fun at Rage Against the Machine. Um,
Nerd culture with publishing zines.
yeah. Um, One thing is, so originally their chorus, all they were gonna have were the ba. They weren't gonna have any other words.
Oh, the only the bars.
Yeah, that's it. It was just
Those are
gonna
so
be
good on their own.
yeah. You know, they weren't gonna have any of the fucking anything that was memorable. People don't even know the name of the song is Flagpole Sitta. They
Exactly.
know it by Not Sick and Not Well. Flagpole's also only mentioned once in this song.
Yeah, which contributes so much to its irony.
Yeah, and the
Like
when they
every aspect of the song is just ironic.
well, my favorite part is the when they mention the flagpole, he's talking about masturbating.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but it's a hit. It's just the way they do it, the way his voice sounds. It is what all of the '90s led up to. I truly believe that.
Yeah,
It's
I
just a
think that
good
really
song.
shows.
Just a really good song. I think it's definitely timeless. So
And it shows with how many more plays it has compared to any of their other songs.
literally anything else. All right. Now we're gonna talk about Woolly Muffler. Um, this is an interesting piece. I like it a lot, but it's just kind of weird.
I like it. I feel like it's sort of spaced oddly in terms of
Yeah,
like the verse and the chorus.
I agree.
Because you get this verse and then it changes sort of feel before the chorus, but it takes a while to get to the chorus.
Well, yeah, and it just immediately starts, with that slow, low guitar like strumming and stuff, and it just immediately starts with the name of the song and what it's
Right.
gonna be about, and then it just kind of keeps going.
And
It's
it almost like plateaus in energy.
yeah, like I remember it because of the first line, but it's
Hmm.
just hard to remember the rest of it sometimes.
Hmm.
I don't know, I ain't got much to say about it. It's a good song. It's just kind of I wish it maybe it was put at the end of the album and they put Wrecking Ball where it was and just switched them and have that slow mellow song in between the two singles.
Yeah, I like that idea. I feel like it has enough energy to like sort of sustain off of what came before it.
Yeah,
But I don't think Carlotta Valdez and Flagpole Sitta are enough to come before it.
yeah,
To it like those two songs, they're both great, but they don't produce like a lot of like musical momentum to
yeah.
carry through to Woolly Muffler. If Woolly Muffler came definitely I wouldn't say necessarily at the end of the album, but if it was anywhere in like the second half of the album.
I would say even switch it with Problems and Bigger Ones so you can get
Yeah,
that
even Private
nice
Helicopter would be
low.
enough.
Yeah, I agree. It just needs a little space in there, but before it comes. Now,
Hmm.
it's time to talk about Private Helicopter, the second single. Um, I love Private Helicopter. I think it is a great, not a, I wouldn't say great. Now, all music, people enjoy music. It's all based off of what they like, their own opinions. So it's really hard for someone to say this is objectively great. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah,
But
it's totally fair.
I really like Private Helicopter. The first line in the song is just ridiculous. The way he says it, the way he kind of sneers at the end. he still has that cocky, ironic attitude in him. And
And
then
just
when
the lyrics themselves are insane.
yeah, why would you be on a private helicopter with your favorite ex girlfriend? Uh, like they're very specific about that, and that's the same thing when the second verse really comes when you're on a hovercraft to Paris with your former best friend. It's like both of those are just like the most ridiculous things you can say, and I
Yeah,
think it just works, and especially when it comes back to the private helicopter part when they're getting a little more like into it, a little more hard. I think it just fits really well with what they're trying to put out.
yeah, and I get what you were saying earlier when you said their label wanted to make Private Helicopter the second single from this album because it really does have the same vibe in terms of like how it plays and really the lyrical content as Flagpole Soda.
Yeah, and I mean you can just feel it, and I think the end before they start in like the end of the first verse before it gets to the chorus, and before he says I'm still attracted to you, he just kind of says I must admit I said a couple things I shouldn't have, and the way he says it with the music is just so like it's like oh I know I shouldn't have said these things, but fuck you, I'm glad I said them,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
type of thing. It's kind of
All of
nice.
it's just like ironic and like I hesitate to say insincere because there's obviously some sort of sincere meaning to it, but that is being it's a little bit hidden
Yeah,
and not direct.
it's just a really interesting piece. Oh, also the bass to start the song.
Yeah,
It's just a nice, like, tasty little bass line that you can just listen to. It's just a joy.
yeah,
Um,
it makes it really easy to like start the song.
yeah, and so it's just nice. So the next one is Problems and Bigger Ones. Now this is about the halfway point of the album. That's 10 songs. Um, I like it. It's so hard for me to remember it because there's just there's so many tracks that just go out there and just grab you and make you want to keep listening to them.
Right.
Some of the songs like that, like Problems and Bigger Ones, that is good and states what it wants to. It just kind of gets lost in the mix.
Yep. Excuse me. There's nothing really like wrong with it in terms of like there's nothing about it that would make me dislike the song, but like you were saying, there's not really anything that sticks out. Like it fits the like what I'm expecting out of this album, and it feels like it's sort of like a necessity to just have these sorts of songs in an album
Yeah,
to fill it up because it's not really possible to have an album full of like hits and bangers because
yeah,
that then none of them are hits or bangers. So this is kind of like one of those necessary songs to have in there. That
yeah. I
it's
agree.
good, it's the bass line, and it fits their sound. But
Well, and whenever I hear the name, I hear him saying problems, and we have bigger ones. Cause like I can
yeah,
hear how he says it, and it like bites me. It's like but I just it's not memorable enough. And for me, it becomes in between Private Helicopter and Jack the Lion, which I
mhm.
really like both of those tracks. So it's kind of it just sits in this weird spot where I'm like I don't know, maybe it was placement wise, but it's a good song. It's just hard to remember.
Yeah, and it's also kind of less dense when it comes to like instrumentation. Like all these
Yeah.
other songs are very loud and very noisy with
Yeah. I
everything
mean,
that's
none
going
of them
on.
were like Oasis, who Oasis is turned up to the maximum volume you can
Right,
be
right.
turned up to before sound compression, but it's still really dense.
Hmm.
So it's a nice listen to break up, but to kind of break up what we've been listening to.
Right. And like I was trying to say, it's like it's sort of a necessary respite between
Yeah.
like these more energetic songs.
All right, so let's talk about Jack the Lion. So I really like this track. I think the chorus really, and I mean it really bites. It's about someone who's at the end of their life trying to come to terms with everything. Um, as it says in the chorus, Jack the Lion is roaring his last roar. It's like a vision from the past. I mean, it just kind of it's like this person's getting to the end, and I don't know. It kind of just gets me. I don't know why, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think the lyrics really work well with the actual song itself,
Mhm.
um, because it sort of musically mirrors like what the lyrics are saying as the song progresses,
Yeah.
and that really contributes to this whole feeling that you get like when you listen to it. So it really, the two together, the lyrics and the instrumentation, really contribute to the listening experience. And I think that's what makes this such a good song, uh, despite it being like a little bit different pace than what the other songs that I liked as much on this album were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and obviously you can tell from the way he's singing this song and how it's written that this is obviously this. It sounds like he's having a loved one that's passed, an older loved one,
Right.
and so you can really feel that he's like coming to terms that this person's going to pass away. It's just
Hmm.
it's a I feel like it's their most sincere song on the album.
And kind of ironic in and of itself, considering this album has a lot of
Yeah,
ironic songs.
it's
So it
just
kind of comes out of left field.
yeah, it's a very interesting listen at the halfway point of the album. So the next track is Old Hat, and now I my thoughts are at the end of this album is really hard for me to just remember because the first half is so strong. Um, so I don't remember a lot about whole Old Hat from all of my listening, but I remember enjoying it when I listened to it.
Right.
And,
And like you were saying, I think this album sort of suffers from having a very energetic and memorable first half and not so much in the second half. And what I found myself doing last week was I would give the whole album a listen at the start of the day, and then I would end up just like queuing up or looping between Carlotta Valdez, Flagpole Sitta, Woolly Muffler, and Private Helicopter. And that did not give me a lot of exposure to the second half of this album. And I think, I mean, I've listened to the second half of this album, or the whole album entirely, which would include the second half, at least 6 or 7 times over the last week.
Well, exactly, and when
Yeah,
I'm at work or when I'm sitting in my room doing things, I'll put it on and like I'll listen to it, and I'm just like, yeah, this is great. I'm loving this, but I just don't really remember it as much. And
yeah,
I could say that all about Old Hat, Terminal Annex, and Wrecking Ball. I think
yeah,
Terminal
exactly.
Annex has a fucking really great chorus, but I just don't remember it. Every time I sit down and listen to it, I'm like, God, I just want to keep listening, but I just also just want to go back and listen to Carlotta Valdez over and over and over again.
Yeah, I get that too. And Terminal Annex has some pretty good spots too. Like there's pretty like good riffs in Terminal Annex. Um, as a whole, the song doesn't really stand out from the other songs that are here at the end of the album.
Exactly. Well, I think this album really suffers from having one giant hit, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of just puts the rest of the album away, especially for their genre of music. Um, one hit is worse than no hits for this
Yeah,
genre,
yeah,
especially back when it was big.
yeah. It sort of eclipses everything else that's in the album and makes it hard to focus on it.
Yeah, it it is an album genre, and it sucks that it is that way. But I just want to keep listening to Carlotta Valdez, Flagpole Sitter, Private Helicopter, and also Jack the Lion. But like, I just want to listen to those over and over again.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Wrecking Ball, I think, is to me the most forgettable song on the album. Not bad, just so forgettable. It's just kind of slow and it's longish as well.
Yeah, looking at Wrecking Ball, I cannot think of how the song goes, but I don't remember disliking it the
Exactly.
several times that I've listened to this album. Like there was never a point where I finished this album and I thought, "Oh, I didn't like those last couple of songs. They're just good with a lowercase g."
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about them. I didn't dislike anything about it, but like like we've been saying, they just didn't really stick out.
Well, exactly. Now the last track, however, that one does stick out to me a lot
Yeah.
because of well, the chorus is just super simple, of course, but it kind of packs a punch. But it's when the song really ends at 5 minutes and 30 seconds, at the 8 minutes and 30, and then for the next 3 minutes, it kind of goes on with these like slowly growing, just dense guitar sound, and then goes back down. And it just kind of does that for 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it's a good play on the song's title.
Exactly, and it's just more irony on top of irony.
Hmm.
They're making fun of radio, which in the '90s was a lot of people's way to listen to music. We don't have all the streaming service, and I guess MTV as well was really big back then for finding new music. But
Exactly. I think that it was also looking at like what role radio played at the time,
yeah,
especially with the oncoming of MTV, which was well in effect at the time, I
yeah,
believe.
yes. And so it just kind of plays on everything. I really enjoy the track. I like I said, I always remember just the sound growing and deadening at the end,
Hmm.
and that's how I always see the album going out. It's just noise, you know.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song to put at the end of the album. It wraps up the whole irony cake with a like a frosting on top.
Yeah. Well, one thing you can say about this, it is irony on top of irony, and then a little irony rubbed on top. It's just
Yeah.
so ironic. There's no problem with that, but it's just what it is. So I really enjoyed this album. I think you say the same,
Yeah,
roughly.
I give it a lot of listens, um, and I didn't really get tired of it.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
one of
definitely
the
did listen a lot to Flagpole Sitta and Carlotta Valdez.
yeah. Well, especially because when you're gonna start a new listen, you play from number one, and so they have such a strong opening that it makes the closing seem not as great. You know,
Hmm.
um, I don't like giving numbers to review things, but I think it's sometimes to end it, you're gonna have to give it a number. I like doing out of five. I give this like a 4 to 4.5 out of 5. I really liked it.
I'd give it I'd give it like a 3.5 to a 4.
This is also my genre of music that I really enjoy. If I have to, be on a bigger lens, it would probably be about the score you gave it. But
Okay, yeah, and that's appropriate because this is a little bit outside of my genre of music.
yeah, oh, and exactly, and that's kind of the type of thing I'm trying to do here is to get people to listen to new music and stuff they haven't really listened to before.
Yeah,
So hopefully we keep finding new music to enjoy, right, man?
exactly.
Well, thank you. This is a lot of fun, and hopefully we get to do this again sometime soon.